Hello, this is Morteza Kurdi, and in this tutorial we are going to start creating our first Android Studio project. So in order to create an Android Studio project, you just need to click on this option here that says Start a new Android Studio project. And here we need to specify the application name. So the application name can be Hello and Hi World. This is the name of the application. You can specify the company domain. So the company domain is used to generate a unique package name. A unique package name is actually the identifier of your application in the Google Play Store. Generally, we use reverse domain names. So instead of this domain that I used, mortezasada.example.com, we use com dot, for example, whatever value dot, for example, another value, for example, my name, right? We use reverse domain names for our company domain. And as you can see here, as I change the value of this company domain, the package name is also changed. So you can see this value here, morteza.whatevervalue.com.hello and hi world. This is a unique package name, a unique identifier for our application in the Google Play Store. So it must be unique. Make sure to choose a unique value for the package name. And if you want to, you can edit this package name by just clicking on this edit button here at the right hand side. We have also this project location. So if you want to, you can change the location of your project inside your computer. And we have these two options, include C++ support and include Kotlin support. So we do not want to add C++ or Kotlin to our project. We want to use Java in our project. So don't check these checkboxes here. Just click on next. Here it says target Android devices. Select the form factors and minimum SDK. First, let me tell you that we are not going to create Android Wear TV or Android Auto or Android Things applications. We are just going to only target phone and tablet in this course. And here, for example, here you can specify the minimum SDK that your application can run on. What is the minimum SDK? So here, for example, let me choose API 16, Android 4.1 Jelly Bean. If I choose this option, it says by targeting API 16 and later as the minimum SDK, your app will run on approximately 99.2% of devices that are actually live in Google Play Store. The minimum SDK is going to specify the minimum operating system, the minimum version of the Android operating system that can run your app. So here we say, for example, Android 4.1 Jelly Bean is going to be the minimum SDK. So here you can also check this checkbox that says include Android instant app support. So don't check this checkbox. You can actually just enable this option later. For now, just do not check this checkbox. And just click on next. Here we have some activities. So let's choose basic activity for this application because this basic activity comes with a menu option and a floating action button already. But these are just templates. And we can, for example, add, if you choose, for example, empty activity, you can add, for example, menu options or floating action button to your activity. You can add maps, login activity, or lots of other features. For example, navigation drawer, scrolling activity, settings activity, and lots of other templates. These are just templates that you can start your app with. You don't have to choose, for example, a specific activity, but if your app, for example, starts with a map, Google Maps activity, you can choose this template. But for now, let's choose basic activity here. That comes with a menu option and the floating action button, and just click on next. Here we have some other options. It says create a new basic activity with an app bar. So app bar is at the top here. You can see it comes with this back button, the menu option. So here, for example, it says activity name. So I'll talk more about activity names. For now, you may not know about activities or layouts or, for example, the title. For now, just leave these values as default. And also we are not going to use fragment in this application, so do not check this checkbox. Just leave these values as default. You're going to master these concepts later in this course, and just click on finish in order to create our first Android Studio project. So now that our project is created, you can see this tip of the day dialog that opens. So it's gonna actually teach you something about the IDE, integrated development environment. Here you can learn something. We're just gonna actually close this dialog. So now our project is created. We have lots of things here. At the left hand side, we have the Android view, we have the palette section, we have the layout. At the right hand side, we have the attribute section. So we are going to learn all about these things later in this course. But for now, I'm gonna just introduce you to these components that make the Android app. So first, let's talk about this sidebar at the left. We have this Android view. So for you, it may not be Android view. And if you want to actually open the Android view, you can see these two little triangles here. If I click on it, we have this project, packages, scratches, Android. You should always choose Android if you want to actually create Android apps. Because it's gonna actually show you the files and the packages that are required, that you need to actually manipulate if you want to create your specific Android app. So for example, if you open this app folder, we have these manifests. So if you open this manifest, we have this Android manifest.xml file. So let me double click on this file, Android manifest. And here now you can see this tab is opened. Let me double click on this tab in order to make this area wider. So the Android manifest file is going to contain some general informations about your application. So we have this application tag, and inside this tag, for example, we have some attributes that you're going to learn later. But for now, let me talk about some of them. For example, this icon attribute. The icon attribute is going to specify the icon of the application that is run on the user's device. So for example, I'm going to teach you later how you can run your app on an emulator. But for now, let me run the app, because I have already created one emulator. So for now, you don't have to worry about the emulator. Later, you're going to learn how to create your own emulator. But for now, let me show you that when it says launcher or icon, you can see that it means this icon here. It's gonna create a default icon for you, and it's gonna just put it as the icon of your application. So this is our application running on this emulator. Here at the top, you can see this hello and hi world text. At the right hand side, we have this menu option, and we have this hello world at the center, and we have also this floating action button here at the bottom. So we are going to learn more about this floating action button later. But for now, let's just go back to Android Studio, to our manifest file. We have this label attribute, right? The label attribute that is going to actually refer to a name inside the strings.xml file. So you're going to learn more about the strings.xml file. Don't worry. So you can see this hello and hi world here. So this is the value, the label, right? We have the round icon. So if you take a look at the icons here, you can see that the icons are rounded. So that's because of this attribute here. We have supports RTL attribute. So support RTL means support right to left languages. So we just, it automatically by default, the value is true. You're going to learn how to translate your applications to other languages later in this course. So this feature is very good. This attribute is really helpful. And here we have this theme. So the theme attribute is going to specify the style of your app and the theme of your app. Later in this course, again, you're going to learn more about all about actually themes in Android and how to use Android material design in your applications. We have this activity tag. So the activity tag is going to, for every activity that you have inside your application, there must be an activity declared inside the Android manifest.xml file. So our application only has one activity. So let me open it. There is only one activity, and you can see that one activity tag is actually created inside the Android manifest.xml file. And these are the attributes of our activity. So for example, the name of the activity is .main activity. So .main activity refers to the package name of the activity that this main activity actually exists. So let me show you the Android view. If you want to open the Android view, at the top here, you just need to click on View, Tool Windows, and then click on Project. Okay, so at the left hand side, you can see that we have this Java folder, and this is the name of the package, right? And inside this package, we have the main activity file. If you open it, you can see this main activity file. So it is actually referring to this name of the package dot main activity. The main activity is actually inside this package. We have the label of the activity, right? And we have also the theme, the style. We have this intent filter tag. So because our main activity is going to be the launcher activity, it is this tag is created for this activity. It is the main and the launcher activity. You're going to learn more about this later. For now, just don't worry. I just wanted to introduce you to the Android manifest.xml file. So let me close this Android manifest.xml file. So at the left-hand side, we have this, again, Java folder. Inside this Java folder, we have this package that is going to contain all of our actually Java files. So we only have one activity, one Java file, main activity. So I'm just gonna double click on this tab in order to make this area wider. So you can see that these are the Java codes. For now, if you don't know anything about Java, don't worry. You're going to master Java programming later in this course. And here you can see, for example, the onCreate method, which is actually one of the Android lifecycle methods, and some other methods that you're going to learn more about later. So let's close this Java file. Let me close also this XML file. So here we have two other packages that we are not going to work with. So let's just close these packages here. And here we have this res folder. So this is very important. The first folder that you can see here is the drawable folder. The drawable folder is going to contain all of the images and resources that we are going to use inside our application. And we are going to copy and paste our images inside this drawable folder. And here we have this layout folder. The layout folder is going to contain the main layouts and, for example, the other layouts that are going to be related to our activities inside our project. So we have this activity underline main.xml, and we have this content underline main.xml. So now you may ask that we have only one activity. Why we have two separate layouts, the activity and the content? And that's because we have chosen the basic activity when we wanted to actually specify the template, the initial template of our application. So here we have the activity underline main.xml. Let's actually open this file, and let me double click on this tab in order to make this area wider. So here inside this activity, if I click on it, as you can see, I cannot interact with this hello world text view, right? I can only, for example, interact with this toolbar at the top or this action bar here at the bottom. At the bottom here, we have two tabs, the design tab and the text tab. If I switch to the text tab, you can see that we have the coordinator layout as the parent layout. So these are the XML codes. And here we have some other tags here. But here I want to show you that whatever that you put inside the XML file is going to be reflected inside this design tab. And whatever that you put inside this design tab is going to be reflected inside these XML codes. This means that the design tab and the text tab are actually interrelated. So for example, we have this floating action button tag here inside this XML file. So this is actually the codes that have created the floating action button here inside this design tab, inside this layout. Let me switch to the text tab. Now at the right hand side, you can see this preview. If you click on it, you can see the preview of the layout, and here are the XML codes. When I select this tag, you can see that inside this preview, the floating action button is actually selected, right? Or for example, if I select the floating action button inside this preview, it's gonna highlight the floating action button tag. So now let's highlight the floating action button tag, and let's delete this tag. And you can see that the floating action button is actually also deleted inside this layout, right? So if I undo my action, now the floating action button is back, right? So here, this activity underline main.xml actually contains the content underline main.xml. Because of this tag, it says include layout, and we have two codes. @ layout, it is referring to the layout / content underline method XML. So when it says @sign layout, it is referring to the to the layouts folder. So let me show you the Android view. I just used the shortcut. So if you want to learn what is the shortcut, you can see at the top, you just need to click on view, tool windows, and here we have this project, and here it is the shortcut. For Mac, it is command 1. For Windows, I think it is a control 1. So here you can see that we have activity underline method XML and content underline method XML inside this layout folder. So when it says @sign layout, it is referring to this layout folder, and here it is actually including the content underline method XML file. So this activity underline method XML actually includes the content underline method XML. You can see some other tags here. You're going to learn more about this later. So for example, we have this toolbar. Let me open the preview. If I select this toolbar, you can see this toolbar that is actually selected here. We have this app bar layout that actually contains the toolbar. So this app bar layout is the parent of this toolbar. You're going to learn more about this later in this course. So let me close this preview. And here, let's go inside this content underline method XML. Let me double click on this tab in order to make this area wider. And here you can see inside this content underline method XML, we cannot interact with this floating action button because this floating action button is declared inside the activity underline method XML, right? So now we have this hello world. We can interact with this hello world. We can select this hello world and then press on delete key on our keyboard. But here in this course, first we are going to master relative layout and linear layouts. And our course is already created with a constraint layout. So you can see at the bottom left-hand side, we have this component tree section, right? This component tree section is going to specify the hierarchy of views that are inside your layout. So here we have the constraint layout as the root layout. We don't want this to happen. So whenever that we create Android applications in this course, especially at the beginning of this course, you can see that inside this component tree, the relative layout is actually the root layout. In order to change the constraint layout to relative layout, you need to just switch to the text tab. And here it says android.supports.constraint layout. You need to highlight this value here and just type in here relative layout with capital R. So as you can see, as I'm typing relative layout, the ending tag of this root layout is also changing. So I'm just going to select relative layout and then press on enter key on your keyboard. So now the root layout is going to be the relative layout. And here, this relative layout now contains this text view. So let's switch to the design tab. Now you can see this hello world text view is at the top left-hand corner of this relative layout. Okay. So here you can see that we have this palette section. So this palette section contains the components, the user interface components that we are going to actually add to our layout. So for example, we have this button. We can add a button to our relative layout here. You're going to learn more about relative layout later in this course. For now, just don't worry. Relative layout means positioning items in relative to each other. Okay. So here, for example, we have this toggle button, checkbox, radio button, checked text view, and lots of other components that you're going to use later. But for now, we have this palette all. You can click on widgets in order to see less components. We have text. So for example, if you want to add a text view to your layout, you just need to select this text view and just drag it here into your relative layout. So here, just select this text view, and at the right-hand side, we have these attributes that are related to this text view. We have the ID. The ID is used so that whenever we want to interact with this text view from our Java codes, we are going to refer to this ID. So the ID is very important. We have the layout width, the layout height. The layout width is going to specify the width of the text view, the layout. So for example, currently it is wrap content. Wrap content means wrapping around the content of this layout. So the text view is actually a layout, right? And when we say wrap content, it is going to wrap around the content. The content is the text inside this text view here. So we can also change it to match parent, right? Now the text view layout width is match parent. Parent refers to the parent of this text view. Inside this component tree section, you can see the hierarchy of views. So we have this text view inside this relative layout. This means this relative layout is the parent of this text view, and this text view is the child of this relative layout. So when it says match parent as the layout width of this text view, this means the width of this text view is going to be matched to the width of the parent, which is this relative layout. But you can see there is still some space here, and because this attribute is now conflicting with other attributes, so you're going to master relative layout later in this course. For now, just don't worry. We have this layout height. You can also change the wrap content to match parent, right? You can see now the height is much larger, or you can just hard code a value for the layout height. So for example, we can say 50 dp, okay? So this dp is very important. What is this dp? dp stands for density independent pixels, which is the Android's way in order to specify that how your widget is going to look like in lots of different Android devices, because lots of different Android devices come with different resolutions and qualities and screen qualities actually. So this dp is used for specifying how this text view is going to be shown on a specific device with a specific quality. So let me show you a post in Stack Overflow. Here you can see it says from the Android developer documentation, pixels corresponds to actual pixels on the screen. In inches based on the physical size of the screen, we have millimeters based on the physical size of the screen, we have pt, points, and here we have dp or DIP, density independent pixels, an abstract unit that is based on the physical density of the screen. These units are relative to a 160 dpi screen. So 1 dp is 1 pixel on a 160 dpi screen. The ratio of dp to pixel will change with screen density. So this is very important, but not necessarily in direct proportion. Note, the compiler accepts both DIP and DP, though DP is more consistent with SP. So SP is also scale independent pixels. We use SP if you want to actually specify the text size of a specific text view. So scale independent pixels, this is like the DP unit, but it is also scaled by the user's font size. So we use this SP for the font size preference. It is recommended you use this unit when you specifying font sizes, so they will be adjusted for both the screen density and the user's preference. Okay. And another article that I want you to read now is supporting multiple screens. So let me show you that article. So here it is, the article. In Google, you can just search for these keywords here, supporting multiple screens, and then you will see a link that will guide you to this page. Or you can just directly enter this URL inside the search bar of your web browser, developer.android.com/guide/practices/screens_supported.html. I just want you to just read this documentation. We are going to learn more all about this later, but for now I just want you to read this documentation in order to introduce yourself to how Android actually handles multiple screens. Okay, so let's go back to Android Studio. So here it is, our text view. At the right hand side we can see these attributes. So for example, we can change the text of our text view. We can say hi world, right, and then press on enter key on your keyboard. And here inside this palette section, we have some other components inside this text. We have plain text. A plain text is different from the text view. So if I select this plain text and just add it into our layout, you can see that it is actually an edit text instead of a text view. So an edit text is actually a container for text. We can enter a text inside this edit text. And at the right hand side, we can see these attributes. So for example, we have the hint attribute here, right? We can say enter a name, and then dot, and then press on enter key on your keyboard, and just delete the text value of this text attribute, and then press on enter key on your keyboard. So here you can see it says enter a name. So inside this edit text, we can enter a value. Let me run the app. Let me show you the emulator. So here it is, our app running on this emulator. And here, if I click on this edit text, you can see that I can just type a value inside this edit text, right? So for example, it says enter a name. So we can just say MacBook, right? Or we can say, for example, Galaxy. So here, this is how edit texts work in Android. We have some other edit texts. We have the password edit text, which you can actually enter a password. So let me just drag a password edit text here. And here, let's run the app. So here you can see our edit text. And as you can see, whatever I put here is shown as actually dots, right? So this is how we can actually use it as a password edit text. And we have lots of other edit texts. We have password numeric. You can actually only enter numeric values. We have email, phone, postal address, and lots of other components. We have the layouts. The layouts, we have lots of other layouts. We have the constraint layout, grid layout, frame layout, linear layout vertical. We are going to learn all about these layouts here in this course. We have the containers. Let's click on containers. We have the radio group, list view, grid view, expandable list view, scroll view, horizontal scroll view. So this one, the default scroll view is actually vertical scroll view. We have the tab host, web view, search view, and here we have these images, image button, image view, video view. Okay, we're going to use these components later in this course. And here notice that image view is actually a container for an image, or this image button, right? Or this video view. These are just containers. We have the date, we have transitions, advanced. So you can see some of these components here inside this advanced, Google, add view, map view, design. So here we have coordinator layout, app bar layout, tab layout, floating action button, and app compat here. So app compat is actually related to how our application is going to be compatible with the older versions of Android operating system. So we use this library a lot in this course. And that's it. It's enough for this tutorial. In the next tutorial, we're going to learn more about layouts in Android. So if you have any questions, please post a discussion in the course, and then I'll do my best to answer all of your questions. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next tutorial.